Friday morning after the great parties yesterday. I really appreciate it. So today we'll be talking about DAOs, my favorite topic, and we'll be talking about like what are the challenges for the DAOs to be still there in like 5 or 10 years, or how we can put it another way, aligning with current sentiments. How can we make DAOs great? Finally, we'll be talking about good DAOs, very good DAOs, the best DAOs in the world. Some things about me. As you can see, I'm old, and I'm that old that I've been here during the open source boom. I've been very involved into free software, free culture movement, and even though free software won at the end, like everybody, like all the devices that you are using some kind of free software that way or another, the fact is that the organizations behind those free software did not actually survive. They were all captured by corporations. So my mission being in governance is how to make it different. How can we do something to make it work this time? A little bit of background about L2 If you don't know L2 this is what we're doing. We are assessing L2s through their risks, and you can check in L2 like if the L2 that they are keeping your funds at are safe. And we are also delegates. As governance, we are delegates in all the L2s DAOs. Our goal is to be present in all L2 DAOs. So we are the biggest delegate in Arbitrum, the biggest delegate in Optimism, one of the biggest delegates in the casing, the biggest delegate in Scroll, and so on and so on. Like we're present in Hop, Uniswap, Everclear, Starknet, Polygon, Lisk, and our goal is to be present across the space. If you want to follow what we are doing, here's the link at the top, and at this page we are putting all the updates of what we are doing at the current moment. And I am known for saying that governance is the most important thing we are trying to figure out in crypto. And I really mean it. I appreciate a lot all the different technical topics, ZK, all this magic that makes those systems work. However, if we are building decentralized systems, then we need to figure out how to actually, how to make decisions, how to coordinate, how to manage those systems long term. And I'm also known for saying that we do not have much time, really. It's not that we can play for the next 10 years to figure it out, because we are managing live series protocols with a lot of money locked in it. We need to figure out quickly how to actually manage them. So, okay, we will be talking about DAOs. So to make you wake up a bit, what does D stand in the DAO? Decentralized. So decentralization is great. Yeah, it has no single point of failure. It has no gatekeepers. Nobody is telling you whether you can get involved in the DAO or not. It has no stupid ideas, but not in a way that there are no stupid ideas in the DAO. Simply, nobody can tell you that your idea is stupid and therefore we shouldn't be, approaching it. Any idea is good. There is no exclusivity. Nobody has like exclusive access to the DAO. If you have something valuable to add, you are welcome and you are good to contribute. And there are no holy cows. Even though, as I said, like we are the biggest delegates in all DAOs, it doesn't mean that we are always right. It doesn't mean that somebody can't call us out and say that what we think or what we are doing is maybe not the best approach. You can literally call out everyone. However, with decentralizations comes no efficiency. Anybody who actually worked in the DAOs knows that coming to a conclusion in the DAO could be hard. Managing stuff in the DAOs could be tough. There is no coordination. Like we are all those separate atoms simply, running in circles and trying to find our way around the DAOs. And there is no central power to tell us, okay, now all of you go into that direction. There is no continuity, which means that if there is some initiative, especially if one person is handling some initiative, there is no guarantee that this person will stick forever, and there is no process by design to make sure that if this person leaves, somebody takes over his responsibilities. There is kind of no choice, and what I mean by that is that we don't get to choose who do we want in the DAOs. Like basically, we get to choose only from those people who came and said that they want to be involved. So sometimes it's not A players. Sometimes it's not your dream developer or your dream marketing person. You've got who is there, and you need to go with that. Like you can't get to hire or procure services, at least by design. If you don't implement it yourself, there is no pattern in the DAO how to do it. And there is no stability. I've seen many DAOs throughout the years, and if you followed, for example, Maker, you know that there are dramas in the DAOs, and things are changing sometimes in unexpected ways. Okay, and what does A stand for in the DAOs? Autonomous. So, what does it mean? This means that there is no higher instance. There is no one that is telling us what to do. There are no boundaries. It's not that you can't go there. You can't actually try this idea. You want to launch a 250 million VC fund? Go do it. Like if you can convince people that this is something you want to do, that's great. If you want to distribute millions of tokens to users of your applications, if you can convince people, let's do it. Like nothing is stopping us from experimenting. There are no dependencies. Like it's not that you need to first do something before you can do that. Like you literally, it's us who are making the rules. And there are no obligations. You don't owe anybody nothing if you are contributing to the DAO. It's simply a community. And there are no roadblocks because of that. Like it's not like in traditional corporate settings that in order to come up with push your idea, you need to go through Jeff from this department because he's the one who doesn't like your idea and he will kill it. But unfortunately, that means that autonomous systems do not have strategy that is given from someone. You need to figure out the strategy yourself as a group. There is no long-term goals. Nobody gave us this. Like normally, corporate setting is someone who is setting this up for everybody. In the DAO, you need to figure it out yourself, or the DAO needs to figure out how to actually manage this. And similarly, as with decentralization, there is no organizational continuity. There is no intrinsic value that is being passed to next generation. There is also no choice in terms of how you manage this. And again, on an organizational level, there is no stability. And here's a tricky question. What does O stand for in the DAO? Organization. I would say that in the DAOs that I've been involved with, O stands for oi, oi, oi. Because we really lack organization in those DAOs. We are like this set of shareholders that has stake in the company, but there is no company. There are people owning stuff, but there is no staff to manage those systems. And we need to change that. If you saw Bartek's talk 2 days ago about the L2 landscape, like how do we grow the L2 ecosystem, he called it that it's time to grow up. And I amplify this message. And I would like to say that in the DAOs, it is time to grow up. It is time to get our shit together and figure out how to make those systems work. Because if we don't figure it out, in few years from now, somebody will tell, okay, this whole funny stuff with the DAOs, with people making decisions by voting, on chain. It was fun and all, but maybe let's grown-ups do this thing from now on. So what does it mean from my perspective to grow up? Like, what do we need to do? First of all, I think that we are super opposed to centralization. Like we mentioned at the very beginning, D stands for decentralization. But it doesn't mean that some parts cannot be centralized. It's actually good to sometimes have kind of a centralized entity within the organization that is handling stuff. And we've been learning this the hard way by experimenting and trying first decentralization and then coming up with maybe a bit more efficient structures. I would recommend you checking out like the Optimism story, how Optimism went, especially within grants, how Optimism went through all the token holders deciding what to fund and what not, and voting on like tens of projects, to small grants council that is managing the whole process, accepting inbound, assessing the projects, then distributing funds, and then keeping those projects accountable, checking whether they actually delivered on their promises. So I would suggest that this is the right way to go. And having those centralized entities doesn't mean that we don't have control over them. How I understand the value of decentralization is not that everybody is voting on everything and every decision has to be done collectively. It's that we have collective control and we can provide collective oversight. So even if we do have those entities internally, we are still controlling them and we can still change them. Another statement that I would make, that people are somehow usually opposed to those organizations that they have within those DAOs. Usually, most of the DAOs that we have right now are coming with those training wheels. Somebody who set up the DAO usually also set up some entity that is supposed to at least help the DAO, do their stuff. And people in the DAOs, for some crazy reason, show no trust to those organizations. They rather would have 5 different random people in the internet decide on a strategic directions for the DAO, instead of people who are hired and are working full-time, waking up thinking about this organization, throughout the whole day thinking about this organization, and when they go to sleep, they also think about this organization. Somehow, 5 random people from the internet are more aligned with our values than those people who are dedicated full-time to it. So I would say your foundation or your labs or your other entity, centralized a bit, that is in your ecosystem is not your enemy. You should start working with them, not against them. You should start listening to them. You should start taking their advice and asking them for advice, because they usually know better and they have more skin in the game. You don't have to figure out everything yourself. And this is also something, when people are coming to the DAO with some proposal, they try to own everything. They try to, figure out everything by themselves, from the very basic stuff up to the whole oversight and management process. It shouldn't be like that. Because of that, there is a super high, crazy cost of coming up with proposals. And therefore, when somebody spent weeks, and I really mean it, like weeks, working on some proposal, it's kind of, bad move to simply vote it down because it doesn't work that well. So, but if we work together, if we split the responsibility, we can be more efficient, we can do better designs, because we can also learn from each other. And this is the famous saying from Jacek Kuroń, some famous, already late, anti-communist hero from Poland. And when he was fighting the system, he was saying, don't burn committees, form your own. If you want to change the system, you need to figure out how to change the system and not just complain, not just fight it. So I would also advise this. If you want to change the DAOs that you are working with, don't just try to destroy something, try to build something. Try to show, if you think that things are going the wrong way, show how it should be done. And that's, by the way, the huge power we have in the DAOs. Because as I mentioned in the previous slides, nobody can stop you. Nobody can tell you, no, we already have this at home. If you can convince people that your way of doing stuff, that your way of thinking about the organization is better than the current way, then let's do it. You simply have to convince people who will vote for you. And last thing, and this is something that drives L2 Beat as an organization, trust, but verify. And this is something that I see lacking in many DAOs. We accept proposals, we fund stuff, we let people do their things and run their programs, and then there is no one, because no one proposed in this proposal, like the proposal themselves didn't put out oversight and control structures, so no one is responsible for checking, for keeping them accountable and checking if they are, first of all, delivering the work, if they are even doing something, and if they are doing something, if this is exactly what they promised. More often than not, like, sadly, first of all, people are simply not doing what they promised that they will be doing, and then, again, quite often, even if they are doing something, they are not delivering on everything that they promised in the proposal. So verify. This is super important in order to make our organizations more effective. And if we implement simply those few things that I mentioned, we can really have the DAO. We can really have an organization that is autonomous, that has its own mandate, that has its own strategy, its own goals, that is decentralized, that is controlled by this community and is driven by this community. And if we implement it, hopefully, we'll have flying cars and everything will be great. But we need to figure out that quickly. We don't have much time left. And I'd like to also call from the stage, if you would like to see how it's going, if you'd like to know your way around the DAOs and see how does it look like running the DAO from the front seat in the biggest L2 protocols, we are hiring. Come ask me about that. We want you to join our team because we are handling a lot, and right now at L2 Bit it's just me and Sinkas sitting out there, and it's a bit too much for us to handle everything. So if you would like to try your adventure in DAO governance, call me, find me after the talk, and let's talk about it. And thank you very much. This is how you can find me. And yeah, we've got 2 minutes left. I think we can go to the Q&A now.
Yes. So for now, our favorite and the most important part, Q&A session. You can take a photo of the QR code, and it leads to the Meerkat. You can log in via your Zoo Pass. You can also upvote questions.
Okay, I will go with the first one. How should L2 Gov differ from L1 governance? So it depends on what exactly do you mean, because as I'm saying, governance is not just voting. Governance is not just this point in time when we are making the decision. Governance is everything. Actually, for me, governance is everything else. It's how we source ideas, how we structure the ideas, how we build consensus, how we convince others that our approach is better than the current approach. This is what is important in governance. So, and these things are kind of universal. It's human. So this is similar. However, there are specific things in L1 governance because usually, L2 governance is centralized, as in there is usually, at least right now, a single sequencer, a single entity like a DAO managing everything, while in L2 governance, we don't have forks, at least so far, which is the case in L1 governance. If you've got people running their own infrastructure and controlling the network, the way of, there are different decisions to be made, and there are different coordination mechanisms to make this happen. Because people can simply go and run their own stuff, and they can split the way how Ethereum split from, for example, from Ethereum Classic. what's the one DAO you think every other DAO should look to as a role model? I don't think that there is any role model DAO right now, but I would totally recommend learning from each other. I would recommend optimism people to look into how are things running in Arbitrum. Arbitrum people to check how the processes and structures are created in Optimism. In my opinion, Optimism is doing an amazing job, and shout out to Justine who's leading that. Amazing job in trying to experiment on the processes and structures. They're documenting it. They are doing it in a in the continuous fashion, experimenting with different designs, and there's a ton of learning from this process. On the other hand, in Arbitrum, for example, what one could learn from Arbitrum is how to manage chaos. Because Arbitrum's approach to decentralization was like, YOLO, let's give people tokens and let them figure out how it's done. We'll not tell them how it's done, like they need to figure it out, and we'll be staying from the side and just helping them if needed. And there are things that are, there's stuff to be learned from other organizations as well. For example, there is a question, what are some good DAOs that you see? I think that all the DAOs that we are involved are good. However, there are also examples of great DAOs that not everything went very well there. A lot of people that I know have huge PTSD after MakerDAO, for example. But in my opinion, what MakerDAO did was amazing. Like they were literally on the frontier, and they were trying and experimenting with things that nobody's seen before. Also, one DAO that I would recommend everybody to learn about is Moloch DAO. Like one of the first crazy DAOs that experimented with a lot of stuff, and they introduced the rage quit mechanism. There is a lot to be learned from that. Also, as well as when we are speaking about Moloch DAO, the next one to mention is definitely Metacartel DAO and the story about it. Okay, why is it taken as a given that token holders should be the ones to have any say at all, other than opting in or out or buying or selling their token? So, well, that's how it's created. It depends, actually, because it's not always like that. In order for token holders to really have a say, like really have a say, token holders need to have control. And there are very few DAOs in which token holders have actually do have control. One of the examples is Arbitrum. And the reason why token holders have a say there, because that's how it was designed. This token is literally controlling the whole ecosystem. As in, token holders need to vote in order for any upgrade to be implemented. Like, there is no other way. And as well, token holders are controlling, for example, the foundation. It's not like the foundation is somehow, securing the DAO and they have the last say. No, token holders in Arbitrum can, and one day will, change the director, for example. Token holders can vote something to ask foundation to do, and foundation is obliged from the bylaws, from the statutory documents to follow the will of the DAO. So why is it taken as a given? Because that's how it was designed. But it doesn't work like that in every system. You need to check if in your system, token holders actually do have a say. Do we have any other? Is an elephant in the room? DAOs are maybe in part OYOI by design to obfuscate layers. Yes, I believe so, that some DAO designs are made complicated and crippled by design to not give out and to not pass all the control. But it's a bigger politics, and in my opinion, we'll see how it goes. Like there is this tension between equity and token in the structures that we see in crypto, and I think this will be the hot topic of the next year or two. Okay, my time is running up. Thank you very much.